second ESPN FC Live of the day, and we're reacting on the big one. Liverpool against Manchester City at Anfield. Mark Donaldson, Janusz Mihalik, Luis Miguel Echegaray. Let's put this one into context. It was pretty much a complete performance by Liverpool in a 2-0 win. Manchester City are now in a Europa League spot. They're fifth. Just let that sink in for a second. Janusz, it was the perfect day for Liverpool with pretty much the perfect performance, wasn't it?
It really was. You really couldn't ask for a better one, right? Sometimes in a game like this, you ask for a massive performance because you know what's at stake, but then you have to deliver. And you know, Liverpool didn't just deliver as we saw the match, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to find one player that hasn't delivered, and not just that hasn't distinguished themselves in some way. Really, I was thinking really hard. I mean, of course, you can always say that somebody didn't stand out. For example, I don't know, like Trent, Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, or Hakpo. Right? You can look at Andy Robertson, but he was so important. I was just thinking about because I was really closely watching the midfield because we knew it was going to be a battle, and I think we all knew that the strength and power of Liverpool was probably going to win it against the, if you will, creativity, right, or lack of lately anyway, but normally a strong strength of Manchester City. And I was looking at McAllister the whole game, and my goodness, quietly, he delivered perfection. And we can go position by position. And just quickly, you know how we're saying, Van Dijk, Mo Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's more important to this team? It's impossible to say. All these three, just think of their game today. How nearly perfect and important their performances have been to that team. So just one-way traffic, deliver when they needed to against their arch rival, let's be honest.
LME, what does this statement win do for Liverpool, and what does this defeat do for Man City?
For Liverpool, as Janusz was saying, it's an almost perfect performance, if not perfect, 4 straight wins in the Premier League. Let's not forget, by the way, that they also have the best defensive record in the Premier League. Only 8 goals allowed. They're top of the Champions League as well. They have the best goal differential. And this is Arne Slot's debut season as manager for Liverpool. To me, I'm almost as close as saying now that, this is Liverpool's Premier League title to lose. It's not a shocking statement just looking at the Premier League table, but it's also now about who is the opponent that's going to stand up. As you mentioned, MD, Manchester City is in the Europa League spot. This is a crisis mode now. This really is. I mean, regardless of what happens, this is a crisis mode. And Liverpool fans were singing, "You're getting sacked" in the morning, jokingly, as Pep Guardiola showed his number 6 due to the titles that he's won in the Premier League with them. But it's a joke and a song, and obviously it's not going to happen. But this is a crisis situation for the defending champions because they're just so far behind Liverpool. We're not even talking about them being the closest challenger. Arsenal, maybe, but look at where Liverpool are in the Premier League table. And Janusz, rightly so, talked about all these important players, from Mohamed Salah, 11 goals in the league now, 99 at Anfield. The fact that he does this on the wing is remarkable. Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's just a magnificent player. Virgil van Dijk, with Konate not available, you still have Joe Gomez, trying to defend. I thought Szoboszlai had one of his best games wearing a Liverpool shirt as well. But this is all about Arne Slot. It's unbelievable what he has done. It was a controlled performance that started with fire and thunder, but as the game developed and Man City improved in the second half, Liverpool still defended well and found the cracks in Man City's armor. Tremendous stuff. This is Liverpool's Premier League title to lose. They are magnificent.
Okay, there's a lot to get to here. 18 wins in 20 games for Arne Slot. First 20 minutes of this game, touches in the opposition box. Liverpool 11, City 0. Janusz, what's the bigger narrative right now? Is it a 9-point lead for Liverpool after less than 15 games played, or 7 games without a win, including 6 defeats for Manchester City?
Yeah, see, I'm glad you asked that because, when I think about it, and many will try to dissect this today, right? And the narrative for me is, this is not about what's wrong with Manchester City. This is about what's right with Liverpool. because we're so used to that, right? And let's not forget, not that long ago, Arsenal is just coming into narrative. But I mean, we've seen these battles, right? 98 points, whatever it was. I can't remember. Liverpool coming so close. But this is about Liverpool. It's not about Manchester City. This is not a 1 or 2 off. I mean, they've been losing consistently right now. And we've often, when we think about Manchester City, we've often said, well, when is it going to be the time where they're just not going to be up for it, right? Where they just maybe it's their time. And they've continually answered that question. It's fair play. But Liverpool's had up and downs, right? And the narrative here is that, irreplaceable players, but maybe we shouldn't talk about that because we thought it was an irreplaceable coach. Mm-hmm. And today, funnily enough, I don't know if you had that. It was almost if this game was being played in honor of Jurgen Klopp, because it was rock and roll, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was. I mean, we kind of tend to see that there's more balance to Arne Slot, right? And that's true, right? Obviously, there's a slight difference of playing, but today, that first 20 minutes, I don't know if you got that impression, but for me, City were scared of Liverpool. You could sense
that way.
It's the first time I can honestly say that these players looked scared in the first 20, 25 minutes. Or if not scared, because, these are top players. Sometimes they were scared. But they knew that we're second.
They looked shell-shocked. Yeah,
they knew that they were second best in every department. I mean, you've mentioned, the management, the different style, what he's gotten out of praise like Gravenberg. You've mentioned LME, Joe Gomez. I mean, he was in the coldest of purgatories. I mean, he came in against Brighton. And that was a tougher game, by the way, because Brighton were excellent. Remember, he came in halftime for Konate. Today, he came in for Konate. Couldn't tell the difference. Looked like Beckenbauer spraying balls in the first half, diagonals, 50-yard ball. I mean, trust me, it's not easy to just come in as a forgotten player. That's what Joe Gomez has been for how many months right now. And comes in 2 crucial games, right? And does that. Not to mention everybody else, like a Soboslai, right? I mean, he played like a player that knows he's on the verge of possibly, of losing his starting job, right? I mean, Curtis Jones is coming in, all these players, all these combinations. And how good was he today? And we could go on and on. So it's just a different story. And that's what I don't want to make this about what's wrong with Manchester City. I know we have to. We'll get there, although, most have been said. But this is about what's right with Liverpool Football Club, because this was
100%.
totally unforeseeable. Let's be
100%. Look, I want to talk about both. And I want to set up this question to LME with a narrative. And it's a picture. And it's the Liverpool fans singing late in the game to Jurgen Klopp. As LME mentioned, you're getting sacked in the morning. And he had a kind of wry smile on his face. And then he did this with his hands. 6 titles. Right? You come back when you've got another 5 and you'll be level with me, Liverpool, obviously, with the 1. Now, 6 titles is a phenomenal achievement for Manchester City. Look, we'll park the bus. Right now is not about discussing the whole financial issues, right? Innocent until proven guilty. We'll deal with that at the time. He's got 6 titles. But we can still criticize him because I thought for the first time in I don't know how long, he's named a team to try and stop Liverpool rather than a team for Liverpool to worry about. He's playing Mateus Nunes. He's got Guardiola on the bench. He's got De Bruyne on the bench. He's got Grealish on the bench. He's got Doku on the bench. Mateus Nunes has played kind of wide on the left in some spells. And it was more for me, LME, we need to pick a team that can stall what Liverpool are doing in front of a raucous and rampant Anfield, rather than letting Liverpool worry about the stars that Manchester City have. That's very un-Pep-like. What does it tell us that was the team selection in a game like this for City?
Yeah, very un-Pep-like. It's reactionary, which is not what Pep Guardiola is all about. And, it was, as you mentioned, it's a fun image and a fun moment when Pep Guardiola had to justify his past, which obviously nobody's going to judge him on his legacy. But that's what it is, the past. If you want to talk about the present, as Janer said, that lineup was reacting and overwhelmed and scared of Liverpool. And it wasn't until really Savinho and Jeremy Doku came in where I saw more of a conventional Manchester City attacking from the width and perhaps being a little bit better, because they were better in the second half. There's no doubt about it. But I think that the beginning of this game, as Janusz said, was an avalanche of torture against Manchester City. And he knows it. And that's why he put up 6, because he's talking about the past and what he's done for Manchester City, which nobody can deny. But this is the present. And the present has Manchester City in crisis. It could be, as we mentioned over and over again, the main factor of Rodri's absence. It could be the discontinued inconsistency of so many players. It's why Stefan Ortega Moreno was in goal instead of Ederson today. Maybe the injuries, Kevin De Bruyne, of course. But regardless of anything, the lineup today, as you said, from the very beginning, was one that was reacting to Liverpool as opposed to trying to implement something. And Liverpool took full advantage. Look, at the end of the day, both these managers, I wrote it this week, Arne Slot is so inspired by Pep Guardiola in many ways. He shows training videos of Manchester City, especially when they're off the ball, etc. But at the end of the game, right now, it's about what team is in control of their own destiny. And the only answer is Liverpool right now. Manchester City is relying on so many things, and they are in crisis. Liverpool are 100% not just the best team in the Premier League. To me, they're the best team in Europe. And you have to do a lot to stop them because they are in control. Manchester City, the complete opposite.
I feel like I have to defend his lineup just a little bit, although I would have tweaked it too. But, I mean, look, he knew he couldn't go for strength in that midfield. You don't have Rodri, you don't have Kovacic, right? So I think I could justify him playing Bernardo Silva where he's played him because he knew he's playing at Anfield and there's going to be high press, right? So, I mean, you put a player there that you can – you hope anyway, right, that can deal with that press because he's technical enough. So, I don't know. I mean, you could argue, the back four, when you think about it, I mean, this was the back four that, a couple of seasons ago when City were the best. That was the back four. Remember, Guardiola making all kinds of mistakes in Europe recently and in the last game as well, right? I mean, he's made 3 massive mistakes that led to goals. He's a young player still, so I wasn't shocked to see that. But, even against Inter in the final, there was a 3 in the back. I think Walker wasn't playing, but it was Diaz, Akanji, and Ake. But in other games when he played with 4, that was his lineup. I think he went to something that kind of said, you know what, that was once, a defense that you couldn't penetrate, right? So the only difference for me, I would have played De Bruyne because he excels in games like this. He's a competitor. Now, we may not like him sometimes because he talks to his players, hands everywhere, and you could see he's visibly upset. But he is the sort of player that loves games like this when everything goes against, that he can show it, right? And I tell you what, and Haaland may have benefited from that too, to get a sniff. I mean, he got one sniff at the very end. Other than that, he wasn't there. So De Bruyne, I would have started. I know he's coming up from injury, but I would have played him in this game. Other than that, what options did he have? Savinho and him. Those are the only two things I can think of.
Wide on the left is something he introduced with Doku, who gave Trent a hard time.
Coming back from injury, so you can understand that, right? I mean,
but today's all about Liverpool. And it's a game that Virgil van Dijk could have had a hat-trick, and he didn't score. And he was, apart from one blip at the end, or near the end, when Kevin De Bruyne was denied by Kwame Kelleher, Van Dijk he was outstanding. And I'm glad you both pointed out Joe Gomez alongside him. Some of the passes, I mean, Trent in the first half with a pass was incredible to Mohamed Salah, and then his ball in. And people say, he's not trying to pick out Cody Gakpo. Yeah, you're picking out an area, and you're hoping that someone comes in. And Cody Gakpo did that, and then Alexander-Arnold in the first half. It was Andy Robertson in the second half put a ball in behind. I'm intrigued now to see what Arne Slot would have said to his players. What he tells the media he said might be different to what he actually said, because you want to keep the players' feet on the ground, but you want to celebrate a statement win. And LME, this is something that top managers are always looking for faults. Yeah, it's great to do what they've done, but maybe a little bit profligate in front of goal. With Mohamed Salah one-on-one, could have squared it to Szoboszlai for a tap-in, but he fires over. That's maybe the one thing, and it's a tiny thing. With all the possession that they had, it took them as long as they did before they got the second goal, with the chances as well.
So, it's funny because, based on how Arne Slot manages, and I was doing a little extra reading this week about him, especially when he was Feyenoord, he's an absolute detail-centric control freak. And as we talked about Enzo Maresca earlier, and Unai Emery, and even Pep Guardiola, of course, the best managers are almost like that to the point of obsession, right? Because they want to pinpoint on everything. And there's no doubt in my mind when Arne Slot looks at the tape back of this game, he's going to talk about the things that you're talking about right now, as opposed to, oh, look how great the opener was, Cody Gakpo getting 6 goals in his last 7 matches. Look how we opened up here, 1-on-1 with Salah, the penalty. Well done, Lucho Diaz, for trying. No, he's going to look at where Liverpool can improve. And his next message will be, don't look beyond the next game that's in front of you. Because the most important thing is, one, for us to obviously keep winning, but also to stay healthy and stay focused on the plan. Because until anybody says otherwise, Manchester City remain the defending champions, and we have to do everything we can to, improve ourselves. And also because this is the journey that Liverpool have to do both in the Premier League and the Champions League. And, it's funny, you watch this game, and the beginning, like Janusz said earlier, it was Jurgen Klopp-esque, like thunder and lightning and in your face 20 minutes. Erling Haaland had like 5-6 touches, couldn't do anything. Nobody could penetrate the box from Man City's side. But as the game developed, then jazz was introduced, right? Like, then we're going to try and control it in different ways. And even though Man City are having some good moments, we're going to try and control our own destiny. And I think that's the ultimate message of Arne Slot. Control everything that we can, and everything else will fall. And that's going to be the key thing, especially as December comes.
He 18 points. Sorry, Janusz. 18 points they won the title by in 2019, 2020 for Manchester City. And then Man United were third and back in 66 points or something like that. Where does this Liverpool start and how they're playing right now compare with what they did throughout that season? And do they have the added bonus of City, albeit pushed them to an extent that season, but they're nowhere near at that level? Is it a kind of perfect storm for Liverpool right now?
Well, this is the toughest part of the season right now, because, you've gotten up for these massive games. You've accomplished, midweek you beat Real Madrid. You've won all your games in the Champions League where you've conceded just 1 goal in that, right? You turn around and do this to City. And by the way, Arne Slot knows this league. He's learned this league very, very fast. He knew his team. He didn't have to motivate his team today. He knew Anfield. He wanted to high press. And that's why, before we forget, we have to mention Luis Diaz, because he was sensational in a number 9, false 9 position, right? He could have played every which way, but he understood that Gakpo feels much better on the left-hand side where Diaz plays. So he played him there. He repaid that with a goal. And, that penalty, he had no business of winning that ball. There was one more play in the first half. I forgot to jot it down, where he was 5 yards behind and just fought and wanted again. So I want to mention this, but this is a tough part right now, because the idea right now is not to have it in your head and play knowing that you have that cushion. Because Arne Slot's going to say, hey, boys, we're going to Newcastle and Everton away. You can say all you want about Everton, right? But it's a derby. It's likely the last game they're going to play in the old stadium, right? So 2 away games, and that all can change. And we're talking Manchester City, but 11 points, that's great. But Arsenal and Chelsea are 9 points behind. And it seems a lot, but all it takes is 1 loss. Still 6, you may say, but then there's that pressure. It's a lot less than 9 or 11. That's how this game goes in the heads of the players. So I just think this is going to be the toughest part right now. We remember, we used to say that it was a soft start for Liverpool because those easy games. True. And then we pointed out this period where they had all these unbelievable games with Real Madrid and Europe and everything else, right? And here we are, and they've dealt with that. Wouldn't you be worried about going away to Newcastle? It doesn't matter what Newcastle does or doesn't do, right? We don't know which Newcastle team is going to show up. We don't know.
If you've just beaten Real Madrid and Manchester City, Newcastle and Everton away shouldn't worry you.
Yes, they should. Otherwise, everybody will be winning every game. This is something that I was you can win. And why do I even have to say that? Just because you beat the big games. That concentration and that level of intensity today, it's impossible to do every game. It's just physically and mentally impossible. That's why on a bad day, I'm telling you, first thing that he's going to say, hey, lads, congratulations. Let them celebrate. And the next message, not because every coach would say that, it's because it's a real worry, because that time's going to come. And we'll be here to talk about it.
I'm not talking about complacency. Look, they should beat Everton away from home. But you're right, it is a derby. They should beat
They should have beaten
Newcastle.
Wolves, right?
Well, they should have beaten Nottingham Forest at home coming back from an international break, but they didn't. So he's got plenty of things to keep his feet on the ground. I want to take this off on a different tangent, Elamine. I want to get your thoughts on this one. Okay, so where they are right now, 9 points clear at the top of the table. For me, it's about controlling the controllables. It's about managing the manageables, okay? You don't want any distractions or unnecessary distractions that are caused by you, as in the team. Now, you've got Salah,
I know where you're going.
You've got Trent, and you've got Virgil van Dijk. Now, there's a good chance that Trent might end up at Real Madrid. Salah's the big one right now, and Trent as well is someone that it may or may not stay, but Virgil van Dijk as well. Do you think that the board should get together now and kind of say, we don't want this hanging over us. We don't want to reach February or March. We might still have a lead, and Salah's still not signed a new deal. Could this just be the perfect time to give Liverpool fans a Christmas present and say, you know what? We've given Salah what he wants. He's signed a new deal. That's one less distraction for us.
Yeah, it would be a great time. I mean, look, like here's the facts, right? There is the situation that's going behind closed doors where reportedly, like, conversations are optimistic between Mohamed Salah and Liverpool, but we obviously don't have an extension and official announcement of anything yet. Mohamed Salah said his piece right after the win over Southampton regarding the fact that he hasn't really received anything right now, but apparently there's conversations. Then you talk about Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold. We began this episode by Janusz Michalik saying that you can't even differentiate who's more important. I couldn't agree more. Like, they're so important. So these things, regardless of what's happening behind closed doors, are going to throw a little bit of anxiety over the Liverpool fan base. Now, my hope, obviously, if I'm a Liverpool fan, and obviously it's what we think, is that Arne Slot is the kind of manager that's, that has a squad that's like, look, regardless of what's happening outside of, the pitch or in the training ground, we need to focus on what's going on right now. But regardless of all of that, you just want the football to be the focal point. That's all you want. Mm-hmm. So it would be great news for Liverpool to at least have an outcome of what could happen with Mohamed Salah and the other two. And yes, I agree. I think it would be a great time right now for Mohamed Salah and Liverpool to announce and be like, we've extended it, whatever, etc. But it has to be to the benefit of Liverpool Football Club as well, because there is a future after Mohamed Salah. It's not just about Mohamed Salah. So that's going to be the key thing. Liverpool have to think about what they want after he leaves, because there will be a Liverpool Football Club after this. This isn't Mohamed Salah's FC. This is Liverpool Football Club. So, that's going to be their biggest priority. But I'm not seeing anything on the pitch right now that's getting in the way of anything else. So it has to be working right now. All I know is this: Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mohamed Salah, and Virgil van Dijk are possibly the three, if not the three most important players, the spine of this team. You could talk about other players, of course, and they're going to want their futures rectified. But Liverpool has to take care of Liverpool. That's as far as we know. But if you're going to trust a manager to take care of all of this, it's Arne Slot.
I worry about that. So hard, because you have to be coordinated in it, right? You can't go just one. And, first and foremost, I don't see how they keep them all. And if they should, maybe Arne Slot knows that in order to build another generation of this Liverpool, you have to sacrifice that. I mean, think about it. Salah, what's he on? 300,000, 50? How much is he going to get? Van Dijk's going to come and he's going to say, hey, I want as much as that. I'm just as important. Trent may not, but I mean, Trent is probably the most important one, because he is the youngest. You can get the most out of it, right? So I have a feeling something's got to give, and the idea is going to be in messaging. How's that going to be presented to them? How's that going to be presented to the rest of the team? So team has an understanding of what's happening, and the supporters as well, because, the massive mistake was made that they've allowed that to happen to all three, right? At the very least, they could have dealt with one or two players a little bit earlier. I think in a way, Jurgen Klopp made that easier for them, right? Because they could have made that decision. Klopp leaves. He left a good young team for Arne Slot, and maybe having signed one would have been the right one. But I think the players will deliver. Just remember that on January 1st, you on paper you could sign a pre-contract, right? So if that starts to leak out, and some of these, it could unsettle the team.
I will just add this very quickly, and I think that a good thing would be for Arne Slot to maybe get with the team and just be like, and that doesn't even have to single them out, but just say, listen, everybody, if you're ever asked a question about contracts or whatever, at this point, because it's so crucial, just say, all I'm doing right now is focusing on the present. We're trying to win something. And I know it's easier said than done.
I don't even think he needs to say that to his players. The players are streetwise.
Well, maybe, but what did Mohamed Salah do after the Southampton game? He didn't say that. He was talking, he said very frankly, look, they haven't given me anything right now. My point is, like, maybe Arne Slot just needs to reconfirm, let's just focus on the present. But again, I think that the most important thing is for this entire team to focus game after game, game after game. And whether it's Real Madrid, Manchester City, Newcastle, Forest, Southampton, Ipswich Town, whoever it is, just focus on the job at hand. Because what they're doing right now is magnificent, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe.
It is. And there's not one thing that epitomizes how well Liverpool are doing right now. But if there was, it would be Darwin Núñez, who's maybe frustrated that he didn't get a start today, coming on, chasing everything down. No such thing as a lost cause. It's all for one and one for all. And that's the way that Liverpool are right now. And just to end up, Janusz, I want to end with this for Liverpool. I think they've got two massive strengths right now. One is themselves, and two is the opposition inconsistencies. Because you look at the league table, okay? 11 wins, 1 draw, and 1 defeat for Liverpool. 9 points clear of Arsenal and Chelsea. 7 wins, 4 draws, and 2 defeats. Then Brighton are in 4th, and they've had a sticky spell. And then Manchester City are in 5th. So if this continues, and I know Stevie Nicol won't want us talking about this because I've tried to say, what kind of champagne do you want when Liverpool win the He wasn't happy with that. But it's not just Liverpool's form right now. It's not just Liverpool's ability and Liverpool's strength. It's the opposition, Janusz, and their inconsistencies tied in with what Liverpool are doing. And there's your perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean, look, Liverpool are in control. I'm not, it's early, but they're in definite control. 11 points on City and 9 on Chelsea and Arsenal is a lot. That's a lot. So, I mean, if there's no significant injuries, because they are important, you can say today Konate and Bradley, but, I mean, look at Manchester City. We have to say, I mean, they've been missing key, look at where they were. They were at that level, maybe even better than Liverpool right now for many, many years. Yeah. And look how quickly that has unraveled because of the leadership and the key players that are missing. So, of course, I don't wish that on Liverpool, but there's always that. You can think about it. I think what I like about this Liverpool team is it's not that just the younger, new manager and new ideas, but there's, I think, genuine and maybe even to a degree surprised hunger. Because I'm telling you, I can't believe that they thought going into the season with everything that was going on, Jurgen Klopp leaving, new unknown manager for most of these people coming into this team. Not one transfer, because I can't even consider Chiesa in this one because he's been injured the whole time, right? I mean, remember, everybody was saying, no, how Liverpool? They didn't strengthen. I think these players kind of sense that. They probably weren't sitting in the dressing room when Arne Slot says, hey, we're Liverpool. Our number one objective always is being number one. Of course, everybody says that. But, players are players, and they'll look around, they'll see, no Jurgen, no this, that, or the other. So I think having such an unbelievable start to the season and the Champions League, I think all of a sudden you're finding like, hey, we can really do it. And then you have that renew, you're re-energized in a way, saying to yourself, this is like a bit of a freebie in a way. Not because it's given to us, we're fully taking it, but perhaps maybe we didn't expect it.
Look, medals are not handed out in December, but like in a golf tournament, you can lose it on the first day. You can't win it. It's what you do at the end of the season. But you tell me anybody that would want to swap places with Liverpool right now, you'd have the rest of the Premier League scampering to do so. A 9-point lead, and what a week it's been. They've dispatched Real Madrid, and they've now dispatched Manchester City. Enjoy your evening, Reds fans. Bye for now.